All right, let's try it now. Maybe it's the same. I don't know, but it looked It looked suspicious before, so whatever. As long as it's recording, I don't really care how it sounds anymore.
Is there anything we need to catch up on, or can we just jump straight into Suicide Squad?
I think this is a Suicide Squad exclusive.
We've both seen it within the last 48 hours.
I watched it twice.
I should have watched it again.
I watched it Thursday, and then I watched it yesterday.
And by the way, Warner Brothers, good on you that you can just download the app, or you can just go to your app and watch this movie, unlike Disney with their $30 fucking extra paywall for new releases.
Well, that's going to probably...
bite them in the ass? Yeah, I think it is.
I mean, how are they making any money?
Theatrically?
Are people like... Well, how are they making any money, period? I mean, you're supposed to do this in stages, and at least Disney's making you pay either way to see it right away. Mm-hmm. It's like, who is going to run to see this in the theater if they don't have to?
Especially now.
I mean, I feel like this month,
it's a bad time.
They're starting to try and make people wear fucking masks in theaters again.
I heard a very naughty rumor.
So who wants to wear a mask through a movie when you can just watch it at home?
I heard a very naughty rumor.
About what?
The reason why we haven't gotten a Spider-Man trailer yet.
Is because everything's going to get pushed back? Could be.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe. Who knows? They're eventually going to have to do something because their TV series everything's like kind of chronologically ordered.
Yeah.
You can't just release stuff out of order.
Because unlike any other Marvel property, which Disney owns and can just distribute how they see fit, this Disney and Sony partnership. So like Spider-Man's that weird movie where it's like, like everyone's got to be in agreeal here. Like apparently for the ScarJo lawsuit, the big deal is like she's not suing Marvel. She's suing Disney.
No,
because it's a distribution issue.
Yeah, no, they broke her.
Yeah.
They broke the contract.
So
there was a contract. There was a deal. You either honor it or you renegotiate before you break it.
It's like apparently Marvel didn't want.
No, Feige's pissed.
Yeah.
And embarrassed.
So this is
because here's the thing. If you can't take his word because then someone higher up will
just do whatever.
Yeah, then he's fucked.
So I think
his relationship, he has these very important relationships with people that are built on trust and a consistency thing, and like and if someone above is going to make him into a liar without completely out of his control, that's a problem.
It does suck, man. It makes you think of that. Maybe that was.
I think Disney's not going to do any more of this day and date stuff. I
don't think so. Yeah,
I think even though you got to pay for it, I think it is what it is. I don't know, but
it's just weird to me that Disney of all things, like, yeah, you gotta pay for this, and Warner Brothers like, look, man, if you got the app,
the problem with Disney pushing stuff back is that, like I said, the Marvel stuff's timed.
Yeah, especially now.
Well, so they can't keep releasing Marvel TV series, and if you want to keep your app generating revenue, people probably are expecting continuous Marvel stuff.
Is Spider-Man supposed to come out before or after Hawkeye?
I don't know. That might not be. They may not be interrelated. Hawkeye doesn't seem like a multiverse-y thingy.
Well, I know it's going to have. We know it's going to have Scarlet. Oh my God, Scarlet Witch. We know it's going to have the new Black Widow in it. But other than that, I don't think we know anything other than it's just the passing of the Kate Bishop.
I don't know that it's that either. Marvel Comics have both Hawkeyes running around for a decade now, or longer.
I wonder
They're
how many
both running around.
Like, is there enough Catholic?
There's like two Spider-Men running around. It doesn't matter.
Is there enough Catholic confessions for him though after what he did as Ronin in the fucking Infinity War Endgame shit? Because remember the whole deal. His character at that point was like, especially when it came to the point with him sacrificing who was going to sacrifice them. He's like, boy, do I have some red and some ledgers from some of the shit I've done after my family died.
Yeah, but it was all bad people, so whatever. It was all bad people.
That's true.
And like,
I guess you can go.
If he was ever working with S.H.I.E.L.D., they were killing people.
That was a
S.H.I.E.L.D. isn't a don't kill anybody kind of organization.
Yeah, that's true. Especially like the Winter Soldier movies. Like Cap killed a lot of people in that opening scene, and you might go, "Well, they didn't die off his impact." I'm like, "Yeah, but if you get kicked in the middle of the ocean in the middle of the night,
Captain America's not a no-kill guy either. He's a soldier.
Yeah.
He's trained to kill people. Originally he was trained to kill Nazis.
I remember when Cap was first announced. I was like, "How are they going to do a whole thing without him killing someone? Because that doesn't seem realistic." And they don't. And you go, "Oh,
they
okay."
Didn't even bother with Batman because it's unrealistic.
It's true.
It's unrealistic.
Speaking of killing people, Ben.
Let's
get the meat and potatoes here.
Was that all set up just to have?
No, it wasn't.
To have your clever.
It really wasn't.
Segue.
I wish I could take credit for setting that all up, but there's no way.
You're cleverly heavy-handed.
You know I'm not that clever, okay?
Yeah.
But
I wrote 2 pages of notes, and by notes I mean like just
observations.
Not even observations. Some of it's just like a word so that I remember to talk about somebody or something.
And the movie's very fresh in my mind, it being less than 24 hours. Yeah. So let's jump
Although these notes are completely out of order, so we'll probably be jumping back and forth through this whole thing.
Do we ever not?
No.
I do. This is one of the weird times. I definitely want to start with the beginning of the movie, though, because what James Gunn does is he sets you up for this movie you're about to watch, and it's not even close. It's so...
What do you mean, not even close to what?
I mean, you think you're going to see all these characters, you're getting prepared. I mean, I was so excited. I'm like, oh, man, I get to see fucking... I love Jai Courtney as Captain Boomerang, so I'm like... And he came back for this movie, and he starts... we're starting...
By the way, we're fucking... Don't listen to this thing.
We're spoiler heavy, buddy. Yeah. And, they spend the time on Michael Rooker... And they spend the time with Pete Davidson, and
I mean, I don't know about spend the time.
Well, he's very good at like, okay, these characters are going to die. Everyone that you're seeing right now is going to die because we've been told and prefaced that he had an open book to kill whoever he wanted. But I
guarantee you, they said you can kill anyone but Harley Quinn.
Yeah. She was, but you know what? It's almost like her superpower to like do this kind of crazy shit and make out okay. She's almost like Domino in that way.
Yeah, well, when they storm the beach, she just runs up.
Yeah,
never gets shot.
Yeah, it makes. I
mean, she's not like walking. I mean, she's definitely like ducking behind things and stuff, but she's not being super careful at points when she just stands up, shoots her bazooka, and then runs forward.
I love that right off the bat he kills his brother, who is does a dual role in this movie. He does the voice for Weasel, and he's also Calendar Man.
He doesn't kill his brother.
Well, we think he's dead until the credit scenes.
Weasel's not dead.
Weasel was a great character.
I do like that
for the little time he had.
The Suicide Squad in this movie. First of all, the home base crew, all the people on the computers and stuff.
Placing bets and shit.
Well, there's the placing bets and stuff, but there's also the death pool was funny, and like how it's going on, and Waller's kind of aware of it, but it seems like it's a little like just don't do it in front of me thing.
Yeah.
But so she's like don't ask, don't tell. But she's great, by the way.
Oh, I'm glad.
What an actor.
I'm glad that she was able to do this.
Once she starts throwing the F-bombs around and getting fucking angry, and they have to club her over the head and shit, wow.
By the way.
She's she's a total piece of shit in this movie. Like, complete piece of shit. Like, manipulating people.
She's the perfect Amanda Waller. Wow. She's perfect Amanda Waller.
Threatening to, like, fucking ruin people's lives over this.
And I'm so glad that she had the opportunity to redo the role like this.
Yeah.
Because I remember when she was in 2016, I'm like, oh man, that's a heavy actor to have. If your movie's gonna be shit, don't do this. Like, she's a perfect cast. Yeah. Like, I can't think of a better Amanda Waller. So
yeah, she did a really good job. I forget the tangent from that. The crew. So I like how like a couple of times, it's like this was so like rushed of a mission that nobody did any research. They just threw people together. It's almost like the two teams were set up to be like Waller's bias about like that the decoy team, how it's I guess she decided I can live without any of those people. Like they were sent to all die. Even Flag and Harley.
I know.
Like she's like, these people eventually are going to be problems for me down the road.
Yeah.
So maybe let's, like Harley's back for second run. Flag probably has voiced opposition to a lot of her moves in the past. That these people are on the team that like she's almost crossing her fingers. You could tell by the way that she put that team together and sent them to do this thing that none of them were supposed to survive. I don't think.
No.
Was she expecting Flag to survive and lead the other group?
There's no way.
No, I don't think
so. Not with what they were up against. It was pure luck.
But then you're like, no research. They didn't know Weasel could fucking swim.
That was
they didn't know
so funny.
They didn't know Bloodsport had a rat phobia. So it's like
the relationship between him and Sebastian through this movie.
But there's like a couple. But there's Sebastian the Rat. Yeah. But there's a couple of times. There's like at least twice where the crew, working for Waller at Task Force X or the prison or wherever they are, is like, how come nobody knew this? How come nobody knew that? And also like. Flag's like, I didn't get to pick my team and I didn't get to pick my people, and it's almost a Task Force X. It's almost like it's a miracle they ever accomplished their objectives, because it feels like they just grab 5 characters out of thin air, throw them at a problem, and if they all die, they die. But accomplishing the objective, you would think they'd put a little more work into putting the team together.
Yeah,
maybe that second team they did a little bit, but even that, it was like it's like they introduced Cena, and it's like, well, what are you doing? He's me. Why are we having 2 of the same person on the team?
I like to think that the 2016 setup, where the scene where she's setting up her team, was definitely a more Amanda Waller, like, well thought out, well researched. Yeah. Where this movie is
because you've got especially so because they show that it's a prison full of superpowered people.
Yeah, exactly. She has the pick of the litter,
and yet still it's kind of like a bad assembly.
Exactly. It was weird. Especially that's the only thing that goes against her character in this whole movie. By the way, I love that.
Go back to Weasel for a second though. Talk about missed opportunities.
I fucking love
right off the bat. I'm getting nervous about the movie because there's just a complete missed opportunity for a mouth-to-mouth scene because he drowned. And now it's like, we got to resuscitate this guy. They could argue, like 8 people arguing, I'm not giving him mouth-to-mouth. I'm not giving him mouth-to-mouth. Let him fucking drown. It's Suicide Squad anyways. You just missed a perfect gag there.
Maybe they had some thought of that, and because a lot of these movies,
maybe cut for time. But I feel like it would have been a real successful.
Maybe working against the rhythm because they had so much else.
I don't know.
I think weird, right?
Yeah, because it's funny.
I was thinking that too.
Like the whole gag, it's like he flops into the water. Everyone else kind of,
because why rescue him if you're not going to do the gag?
Everyone else is kind of like a dignified drop in the water, and his is just like a shit falling in the bowl, and then he can't swim. He
drowns immediately,
and then the guy bothers to go drag him on the shore and to just look at him and go, "Oh, he's dead."
He figured it would have been done on purpose.
An attempt to resuscitate.
That would have been a funny scene too.
Someone fucked up there.
That would have been a funny scene because you would think someone ended up that would probably be Harley ended up doing it or some shit like that, and they would have made some real funny gag with that. Well, yeah, I would only have to assume that it was probably talked about, but they went, hey, we just can't do it for whatever reason.
I don't know.
We don't know. Yeah.
Sometimes
that'd be a great question to ask.
Sometimes you're just so close to the you're just so close
that you don't see it,
that you don't see the obvious. Sometimes it works with drawing and painting for me.
That's fair.
That when you're working from 8 inches away, you don't see the obvious that you would see if you stopped for a day and looked at it from a foot away.
Like what Neil Gaiman says, when you write, when you're done, put it away for 3 or 4 months and then go back to it for a final edit.
Or just have someone else look at it. That's going to be honest.
I just feel like he would take his transcript that he writes. I imagine him putting it in a lockbox, burying it 15 feet in the fucking ground someplace, and then he has to make a trek to find it. And
I don't know.
He's a weird dude. So
it's funny with this movie, how much time he had, because it seems like,
and he used that time for a lot.
It seems like this was shot and finished before the pandemic. So I'm not going to say he had extra time to flesh things out. But I don't know if it was I assume it was. I don't know if it was the regular amount of time to hammer out a script, put it away, and then look at it with objective eyes. I don't know.
A lot of this seems to be like writing.
I know, like with the Guardian stuff, because it's his third one. You kind of have, if by the third movie, you've been writing that script a little bit in your head through 1 and 2.
Yeah, so it's
and
easy.
so even if the third one now that he's working on is a little rushed, he's been working on that for years, not pen to paper, but in his head. I don't know.
What I liked about this movie was it was definitely unequivocal. It was like the Zack Snyder cut, like the James Gunn. Like this is 100% unfiltered James Gunn we got.
There might be a better cut. There might be. It's still edited for a regular movie.
No, but what I mean is you can tell he had almost 100% of the decision making process. Like he made all these. This is his film. There is no doubt. This is all James. Everything screams James Gunn all the way down to the cast. So, and it was great. It was fantastic, but it also felt very distinctly different than like Guardians. It didn't feel like he just brought Guardians over to the DC. It was like
no, and that's good.
Yeah, it was great. I loved it.
But I unrestricted freedom, no confines. I think the only confines he had
was probably Harley.
Were that he was going to use a couple of characters from the other movie, and kind of like continuity-wise, whatever, they kind of shrug at the continuity of it. But it's still in the Snyderverse, I feel. The Snyders are listed as producers on this thing.
Because they got all those producing credits real early on.
Maybe I feel that being this unrestricted might be a bit of a negative. It may not. This movie may not have been as best as it could have been because of that. I feel like maybe sometimes working within a few constraints, pumps a man like that's creativity.
But we also have to remember where this movie comes from. This movie comes from DC's desperation to turn the ship.
No, I'm not blaming them.
Yeah,
and they literally, if they were to unilaterally decide that he oversees the entire future of the DC universe at this point,
there'll be an oversight agreement.
And like, listen, work in the things that are working, and you're in charge now.
Now I have
hire the people. Decide. I would trust that, but I feel like him going in this movie, there was maybe a freedom or two that he didn't click, and we'll get into that. But
do you know? I was having this thought while I was watching this movie, and maybe I don't know how were you loud, but I'm watching it, and I'm like, if because this movie, by the way, it's a great movie. It's not as good as Guardians, but it's a good, fun, great movie to watch.
But do you want to dive into why it's not as good as Guardians?
Yeah, well, we'll get to that.
I do feel like I don't know if we're being objective. I feel like you and I went into this movie with overhyped expectations.
Only because we really enjoy James Gunn as a director.
Yeah, and I don't know, something about the marketing of it and this, that, and the other, and maybe some of the reviews and stuff that get in your ears before we see it. I feel like I had as much as I try to go in a movie realistically, I had over expectations for this.
Maybe, but it feels like if DC today was like, listen, we need you back. I feel like him and because his film, the way he does action, everything. I feel like him and Zack Snyder, like the two of them, like together, man. Well,
the two of them together, you get Dawn of the Dead. He wrote it and he directed.
There you go.
So
I'm 100% behind that pairing. Obviously, I don't think it'll happen. But
this Snyder's gone.
Yeah,
I don't think he's involved.
But it's funny because they stay on as producers throughout all these movies.
Well, it's something that you get.
Yeah,
it's just like you produce the originals until you decide we're not doing this. Yeah. Until you kind of reboot it entirely and have this whole new creative team on it, whatever. If you're still kind of saying this is a sequel-ish thing, I think you get the producer.
It is such a weird place.
I mean, or I don't know, maybe. I don't know how it works. I'm pretending I have any clue how
we definitely don't know how Hollywood works. Yeah. So Why wasn't this movie fully realized, you think? Why didn't you think it didn't live up to its complete potential? What was holding it back? You think he had too much of a call?
I think there's just some things that I feel it's hard to not compare it to a movie like Guardians. But let's just say even things like that I think that are become trademark Gunn things, like music becoming important moments and memorable things. I think this movie lacked that. I think two things happened. The soundtrack, when you do a Guardians movie, you establish that he had this very limited number of songs from a very specific time period. And that time period, when we watch it allegedly 30 years later, all those songs are classics that we're familiar with.
Yeah.
You've heard somewhere, a lot of them may already associate within you a moment in your life. So then when you watch it on screen, that moment of the film relates to something important to you because the tie-in is the music. In this, I felt like all the music, some of it was unrecognizable. We weren't familiar with some of the music.
That's true. I didn't know where some of it came from.
Was like new music. That's great. And maybe you're like, I love that song, and eventually down the road you're familiar with it, or you buy the soundtrack or whatever. But I felt like the only song that I recognize, and I felt down the road you could be like, when you hear that song again independently, it might make you think back to the movie, was Just a Gigolo. Mm. But even in that scene, I felt like there's a beat or two, where the song changes pace, or changes like more in the Van Halen version, but in this version, the scene and her violence didn't sync to the song. Very, like, in terms of, like, if you watch Baby Driver, they've synced the action to the beats of the song and stuff. And I felt like there was an opportunity in there at one point where the song changes or that, like, it was also like a moment in the action where she does something and it wasn't synced. Yeah. And it should have been. Huh. But it's memorable also because that's the only song where you get this weird, all of a sudden, this color palette and these animated flowers and birds.
I
whatever.
Loved it.
And you're like, so it's like even doubly trying to reinforce when you making it a memorable moment and it's tied to a song. But I was confused, like, why? Is that like what Harley sees all the time?
It's a callback. It's a callback to her first appearance in the animated series.
Is it? Okay, yes. Well I don't know anything about that. And they only do it once.
Yeah.
Where it's like if you did it twice for Harley in this movie, where she has another violent scene and you see her, all of a sudden her brain's painting this palette or doing this animation or seeing Tweety birds or whatever the fuck it is.
Probably would have
make
cool.
More sense.
Probably would have been cool when she was in Starro's eye.
Well, you see that there's a beauty in that too. Yeah. But when she's sitting there floating, almost like Peter Quill in space or something, and you see the rats swim by her and do this beautifully violent act.
By the way,
this violent act that creates like this beauty, the blood in the water and the like the swimming of the rat. It's like this really nice scene. But I couldn't even tell you what the music was there.
You brought this up, and I don't know, you're probably going to jump to it. This movie didn't need Starro.
If they had spent 10 more minutes making just the conflict with the government and whatever, et cetera, and saving their own people and just blowing up a building to destroy some records, I think this movie's a success. You don't need
the same movie. It's definitely the same movie.
And then it's a trimmer time. Yeah. You have all the humor still in it, whatever. You don't have the one moment we'll get to with the Redcatcher and Starro thing.
That's true.
But you could put that somewhere else.
Or you can tell that in a different way. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I felt like, and so I'm not going to say that the movie was too long or dragged or anything. You could have had a trimmer movie, and I feel like the Starro thing could have been something else that could have been wrapped up with, the more of just dealing with the military or whatever. But the Starro thing was cool.
Oh God,
was super cool.
The effects, the effects, both the physical and by the way, the CGI is really good in this movie because King Shark really comes to life, and there's very few.
The texture on his fucking skin,
really good, right?
They show like a couple close-ups of his face at different times. You see little pits and dimples and coloring, and
it's really impressive effects. This movie definitely impressive.
Affects smoke.
Yeah,
something like Aquaman. But also because they do so much practical. Mm-hmm. You know that whole beach scene is not a beach. They built that whole beach scene is built in a studio.
The opening?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
They created like a fake ocean.
That's awesome.
And by fake, I mean a lot of water,
yeah,
a beach, and a jungle. It must have been a gigantic space, but they were talking that whole thing wasn't on location. They built a set for a beach.
That's awesome.
What the fuck?
I love that.
Which is really cool.
But I love when they do shit like that, you know?
But a lot of it, I mean, obviously, like, Weasel and King Shark are all fucking CG, which is impressive, but apparently there's a lot of practical stuff. I mean, I assume all the starfish masks were, like, sculpted and painted and made and real, which would be a great toy if they could make a really cool one of those.
I came away with this movie with a lot of thoughts. But one of the thoughts was like,
the CG was great.
I was like, we got Starro, and he was done perfectly. I'm like, are we ever gonna get Starro again with like the big boys? Or I mean, by the way,
unnecessary now.
It feels like it, right? It feels like you've done it now.
They covered like everything you could cover with Starro.
Yeah.
Why repeat that? Because you had it's brilliant how efficient he is at explaining stuff within a scene or two.
It's so good, man.
Where they find it in space, it's on the ship, bam, bam, bam.
Yeah.
So quick, you understand everything. There's not 20 minutes of exposition
to
explain the situation. They walk past a bunch of them in a cage. Starro has a line or two. Are you here to save me? This man's been abusing me. Yada yada. It breaks out.
It doesn't kill them at first. It doesn't go for them at first.
Yeah, it's kind of not even worrying about them.
It's almost like it's like, hey, I acknowledge you helped me escape.
I don't know if it's that. I think it was
I feel like that was an unsaid kind of thing.
I think it was trashing shit. And then...
because it's way more mad at these people.
But it wasn't discriminating. It shot all those starfish out.
Yeah.
It could have fell on them too. You know what I mean?
They tried.
So I don't think it was avoiding them or helping them or even acknowledging. It was like, fuck you, I'm free. I'm going to fuck you people up because for 30 years you've been torturing me. And then they kind of make it this vengeful creature. And in one line at the end, I wrote it down, Gunn takes that moment to make it... to briefly make Starro sympathetic. He does it one or two times, but then it goes on a rampage. And it's kind of like you're like, am I still rooting for this character? No, it's killing millions of people. And then it goes, I was happy floating, staring at the stars as it's dying. You know, like you did this all. This is all on you, people. It wasn't apologizing, but in its dying breath, it's like, it's doing the Frankenstein and King Kong victim thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
No, it was great. He finds a way to basically bring a human element to anything in his movies to make you feel the way that he needs you to feel about it. Man.
And it's cool because like that Starro character gets its little arc because it gets its revenge off of Peter Capaldi's character, the Thinker or Thinker. I don't know if it's the Thinker.
I don't know if we got enough of Capaldi. I really don't.
He was in a lot of the movie,
but he was so good.
He was in a lot of the movie.
It was like one of those things where it was so good, but I'm like, I don't know if I want more or not.
I love that man because I'm a Doctor Who fan, and he was a doctor. But
some say the last good one.
Well, there's only been one since.
Oh, has there?
Yeah, the woman.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Don't be all misogynist.
I honestly didn't know that.
Yeah,
I'm not a Doctor Who fan.
But he like when he first shows up and he's in the tracksuit, he looked ridiculous. Those things on his head, I was consumed at points in the movie because they're in like the back of his head going, how does he sleep at night? Can he even sit in a chair?
He has a special pillow.
Head back on a headrest, you know? These are the weird things that go through my mind looking at characters and character design. But he just had this, like, there were a couple lines that were like $1 million from him. She's like, how would you like it if I sent like 20 rodents up your ass? And he's like you may not get the answer you expect. And then when he's like strung up in front of the Starro Eye, and he's like, "I get it now. I understand. I fucked up.
Let's figure this out." I mean, all right.
After torturing it for 30 years.
So there's so many characters. I almost feel like we should just go character by character, unless you have like real important points, because every character has a moment, and if they're worth talking about, really. At least the important ones. I mean, I don't think you want to talk about Javelin. He was in the movie.
I mean, we can. I mean, Javelin. It's funny because you use him to create this humorous thing about the Javelin.
Oh my
where
God!
He's like bequeathing it to her and trying to give her this holy mission, and he's like, use the Javelin and then he dies, and she's like, for what? What? For somebody? For this? For that? And then at the end of the movie, she's like, I know my purpose, and like 2 or 3 times. She misplaces the Javelin and ends up with it again. Like when they're running out of the building as it's sliding, and it rolls down, and she just casually scoops it up and triumphantly makes a sound like, "Ha ha, my Javelin again!" It's almost like Arthur can't get rid of the sword.
And I love that it ultimately,
and it's her holy like calling.
It ultimately is what brings down Starro.
Yeah, she plunges it into his eye, which creates a little tear. She's floating in the liquid, and the rats come in.
Okay, so other than the rat part I was not expecting, but I was expecting her to. That
was a lot of rats.
Yeah.
I mean, the fucked up thing is if that's realistic.
Yeah.
And you think of even where we're living now, how many rats exist under our fucking nose that we are not aware of.
That's crazy because you think of Rat Catcher and you're thinking of such a throwaway character and yeah, whatever. And like, oh, it's Beauty and the Rat Catcher 1, by the way. Taika Waititi, nice as Rat Catcher 1. And
well, let's do the jabronis first.
Okay, all right.
So we got Javelin, which
had a great few moments, and that was that.
Funny lines, the accent thing, hardly interaction. The detachable kid. We love Nathan Fillion. Did you?
Oh God, I love Nathan Fillion.
Did you watch that thing I sent you about the pavilion?
I don't know if I did or not.
Well, you would if I just.
I might.
So a couple years ago, they started building like this park in I think Edmonton. I think is where he's from, and someone there locally started a movement to have in this area a pavilion, and they wanted to name it the Nathan Fillion Civilian Pavilion. So that was like a little thing. It didn't get a lot of attention, and then Warner Brothers, when it was trying to promote this movie, caught wind of that and started to promote that, and had like all the other actors or some of the other actors in the movie in an interview. They were told about it and what their reactions were and whatever. And now it's got a big movement to the fact where I think the city tweeted like that. How can it not? They're like, it's almost like it's a done deal now. Like Warner and this movie are now going to have this happen.
That's awesome.
So, which is hilarious. And then you have like, he's so clever. Like, they're asking him about it. He's like, yeah, it's like an honor and whatever. And it's just this funny thing and whatever. And I hope they color it vermilion, cause it's like, he's just that clever to like add to add another alien in there.
I love that, man.
So that character, like, you're like the TDK.
Dude,
and they're like, what does that mean?
When they're shooting his arms and he's just on the ground.
Yeah, but he's like, but even funnier was like, when they're like, what does TDK stand for? He's like, that's my name.
Yeah.
Like, what does it stand for? It's me. And they're like, but it's letters. And the other guy goes, every name is made of letters. But then you find out it's for detachable kid, and he just floats his arms come off
slowly.
And but they don't do anything. They slowly float at you, and then Harley's reaction, like that they were allowed to like have an R rating, worked great because she's like, "What the fuck? What is?" And that's where Flag's like, "I didn't get to pick this team," Him, Pete Davidson's character.
I love how Pete Davidson's character immediately turned on them,
alerted the guys that were there. But I feel like that was all Waller's plan. They wanted them at that beach.
That's correct. That's correct.
So she was probably aware he had done that, and that was the plan anyways. And then he immediately gets his face shot off. He has a funny moment on the plane. I didn't like that they went back to him, like, for that, like, toilet paper on the shoe scene. Once he was dead, I was like, I don't need a revisit of him if it's not going to be, like, a worthwhile moment.
Yeah.
I feel like that wasn't a worthwhile moment.
You could have had somebody else, maybe somebody that's not even involved in the rest of the movie.
Yeah, an
just to have
Easter
that.
egg.
Yeah,
An Easter egg.
that should have been an Easter egg.
Yeah, I felt like that part of the time jump back and forth bothered me because it was like revisiting a character that was now dead. The only one that worked was Weasel, where it showed him licking the window. But like to have Davidson Blackguard or Black whatever it was, to have him, to go back to him in that scene seemed, it didn't work because it wasn't like, it didn't do a defining moment for his character. And if he's going to have so few moments, make them have just that it's like, oh, here's like he's thoughtless or something was like, it didn't work for me. But that's like a small complaint. Boomerang was on that squad.
That was by the way.
It's you know what? It was effective to let you know that nobody's safe.
Oh no, it's 100% effective. That's the one part.
I still didn't believe Harley.
That's the part of the movie that I'm legitimately just like. It's the only part of the movie I'm not okay with.
Yeah,
it's the only part of the movie that really got me. I was like, you fucking.
Well, it's funny because a lot of those characters, a lot of the actors on that decoy squad, I guess is what you would call them. Mm-hmm. They used in all the interviews and stuff.
It was
as
great
almost
swerve.
a good misdirection.
Yeah, really.
I was watching a lot of interviews before this came out, and you would have because, they didn't do. It was a lot of like COVID kind of interviews where everyone was being interviewed from their computers. So you would have like whoever was interviewing would interview with 2 or 3 people, and they were on split screens and stuff. And they were using a lot of the people from this. Cena was still whatever, and Redcatcher, whatever, but they used a lot of people from that. So you thought like, oh, they would have significant time in the movie.
Some say that John Cena had to be physically assaulted backstage and had to be physically changed because he never takes the Peacemaker gear off.
It's funny because
when he did the WWE, he probably wanted to come out as Peacemaker. I'm almost positive there was a conversation.
I think, and
I love it.
He would, post movie, if there was some opportunity for him to wear the suit, even if it was like a vignette or something, like some funny thing where they knock on the he's there and they knock on the door early. And they're like, you're up in 15 minutes. He pokes his head around, and you see he's like in his tighty whities with a helmet on, going, "Okay, I'll be dressed by then."
Yeah,
like almost like he's still enjoying the costume.
And
they could do that. It makes more sense after the movie comes out, so more people are familiar with what the fuck it is.
And we've brought this up a few times, but goddamn, every time he's on a run right now. Every time I see Cena on the big screen, I'm like, regardless of what I think about the rest of the movie, you are killing it.
Well, he's picking good projects.
Yeah.
For him, that suit him. He's not trying to stretch his... He's not trying to stretch his range.
I would watch Fast 9 just to see how good he is in that movie.
I mean, I will see it eventually. I'm not paying $1.
No, they're not getting my money, Ben.
But, I mean, eventually it'll land on a platform I already pay for or get.
But he was, especially at the end... Oh my God! When he was going to shoot Ratcatcher, and he's just like, "I'm thorough." I was like, "God damn, that is fucking phenomenal." I know you're about to die. I don't know how they're going to bring you back for your own series. I guess we'll find out. We did, but like that moment with Bloodshot and when it come down,
that full circle thing, because he makes a joke earlier when they first meet, and
the small bullet.
Yeah, and he's like, well, I would just shoot my smaller bullet through your bullet hole and not touch the sides, so I would have a better bullseye than you. And then at the end of the movie, he's like, how? And he's like, smaller bullet that shot through his bullet. And so it's
like
clever.
I immediately picked up on that, but it was really good. Yeah,
stuff.
really clever.
I mean, he has so many let's not talk about the big characters yet.
Yeah.
Who else was? Oh, Michael Rooker. I don't know what Savant is. Like,
I don't think it matters.
I mean, they did something with. Yeah. I mean, all I got out of that with Savant, and then later in the movie, was what is James Gunn's problem with birds? Because Savant kills the bird, with his ricochet thing.
But then one of the birds starts eating him when he's dead.
Yeah, but then later in the movie, remember,
all the birds die.
Right, the general, instead of like letting the birds out, he burns the cage full of birds.
And that's
for
kind
no
of like
reason.
an oddly, it's like an unnecessarily like really.
What are you trying to like convince us that this is a more vicious general?
You
than
didn't
than the
have
last
to do
guy?
this, and even if you did do it, even if you lit the fire, you don't have to sit there and sit on the noise.
Here's the thing. You had established this was a more vicious general because he was talking about doing things with Starro that the other general said, no. Here's the smarter way to do it, and it was less. It was more of a of like a posturing thing and less of a violence thing. And then visually, just uglier guy, older guy versus a handsome. It's just it's a psychological thing. I
thought that other general was David Tennant at first.
I did too.
I was like, "There's two doctors."
I did too. Not in the movie, but in like the previews. I think I caught a glimpse of him, and I'm like, "Oh, Tennant's in this too," but he wasn't listed anywhere. I did too.
And the whole thing with him and Harley was so perfect.
The Harley thing. See, that's another thing. Like it's fantastic, but it's almost like this side story you go on.
There was a lot of mystery,
and it's like if you cut that all out and only have one general, and kind of like combine the two characters into one, and you didn't have the whole thing with Harley, does it change the movie at all, or is this just a way to showcase Harley for 10 minutes?
I think so. And to show her growth from the Joker, where she's like, I made a promise to myself.
Right.
And if I ever saw someone with these red flags,
I'd murder him immediately.
Because when he turned around and started like really like talking off to the distance, but the Odenheim, by the way, Idris Elba saying basically saying Odenheim for fucking most of the movie. I'm like, what a great way to call back without calling back. I like that.
What, for Asgardians?
Yeah. But he's sitting there talking about. I was like, oh, Harley's gonna kill him, and Natalia's like, but I'm like, no, this is the Harley Quinn character that I know. Is she's gonna kill him, and she's gonna have a completely reasonable reason for it, and both things happened. Watching him crawl and slowly die while she's like, I'm sorry.
Yeah. She's like, you're more beautiful with your terrible fucking thoughts pouring out out of your head onto the floor or whatever she said.
But anybody who wines and dines Harley Quinn kind of has it coming.
I mean, you gotta be genuine. You gotta come in if you're gonna come in one way and then start mentioning killing children. I mean, yeah. So again, storytelling wise, I get it.
It was a great misdirection because I remember going like, well, this isn't how I thought this movie was going to go.
But all of that could have just been they catch her and then she's being tortured and escapes. They could have cut that whole segment out, and it improves the pacing of your movie because you still have the breakout scene. You still have with the music and the animation and stuff. You just don't have that segment where she's fucking a general and then kills him. I mean, it is what it is. I enjoy it in the movie, but I feel like it's unnecessary.
Here's the one thing about live action, and this isn't against anybody. This is just like me personally, how I've always seen Harley Quinn. I love everything Margot Robbie does, but like that scene, once he gets shot, turns around and then dies, and the scene where she chokes out the guy who's been fucking shocking her.
Yeah.
Like I feel those moments just cut the music, the noise, everything, and it's just a quiet moment of her like just these people are suffering and she's just taking it in, and just like you want that because she's a psychotic. She's a female. She's parts of her are Joker. And just have those moments that remind you, like, she's not this fun-loving, great. She's a psychopath.
She's dangerous.
Yes,
crazy.
She's
crazy.
And that's the only thing. It's like a personal thing. I'm like, when she has those moments where she does these things, they should be really quiet and real personal. So you get that feeling like, oh, you almost get uncomfortable watching it, and then she jumps back into flamboyant, happy Harley. You know. That's my only like criticism about that stuff, and that's just personal for me. the callback to her appearance and the flowers and all that shit. I mean, that's great. Natalia loved the fact she's like, I've never seen anybody just like kill somebody and take their guns like that. You know how she just continually upgrades her weapons.
Oh, I've seen that all the time. Like action movies and stuff. There are guys that as they go, they're taking the next guy's weapon because they're out.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't think of. I'm not gonna think of something off the top of my head, but I've seen all the time. I see it. Yeah. Yeah.
I was like, that's kind of a good point, but
John Wick does it.
Well, John Wick, yeah, it's fucking John Wick.
But you're saying I never. That's one
true.
easily where he does. He goes along.
I still haven't seen the third one.
Well, you better get on that before the fourth one comes out.
Okay. Who else we got? Anyone on the undertier?
Yeah, I mean, like King Shark.
Let's talk about King Shark.
I mean, Stallone was perfect.
The story behind. Do you know the story behind the Stallone voice?
I thought he just asked him.
So James Gunn wrote King Shark specifically for Stallone.
Mm-hmm.
I saw this interview while I was perusing the videos the other day, but he was too afraid to ask him to do it because he was afraid that if he called us, he was afraid basically, I'm going to call a favor from Sylvester Stallone. He's going to do the voice. I'm not going to think it fits, and I'm not going to be able to use it, and that's going to suck. So he didn't. He instead.
Well, he wrote a few characters for people specifically.
So he had a bunch of different actors and voice actors come in, and he's like 3 or 4 people actually did full reads, and we almost used them. He's like, the last one was a very famous actor who's a friend of mine, I won't name, came in for nothing, did this for me, and then we were all like, this isn't working. And then I was like, fuck, I gotta go with Sly. And then
I was so scared. Stallone seems like an easygoing guy.
No, but I think he was just.
And the worst is you ask and they say no.
And what's weird to me is he has this relationship with Stallone, who's in the opposite of Guardians of the Galaxy 2. So they actually have a working relationship.
Yeah.
It felt weird to me, but he was just like, at the end of the day, I called in Sly, came and recorded the voices for he did it for me, and
it's exactly what they wanted.
It was exactly what the character needed.
Because that was the voice that was in his head the whole time he wrote
it.
Which I feel maybe other people were perfect for it as well, but because he wrote it with a specific voice in his head, nobody was going to sound right. Right. They do it. I mean, like that character, they developed, like, you get that character by the, like with just like simple thing, like when he's riding in the bus, and he looks and sees the people making out, and you see his face, so you start to understand the character right away. When he's playing with the jellyfish or whatever those things are.
So,
and what did he call them? Yeah, I think he called them like new dumb friends.
I love when they meet him because he wants to seem. He wants to come off like
and he's reading the book
upside down? He's reading the book upside down.
Which is funny because he's like
he's
pretending to be smart and he's reading, but then he picks up Spanish while he's like, see, and they're like, oh, dude. When they're like, there's no way. And he's like, I'll wear a disguise.
Mustache.
And he's like, mustache. Like, you're not.
He's got the mustache.
And he does the finger mustache. And they're not even looking at him and they're shitting all over it. And he just yells, fuck, and then walks away doing that same body language thing that the Hulk did in Thor Ragnarok.
So funny.
Those like sulking body language thing he did. It was fantastic. He's like about to eat that girl.
Yeah.
Dude. And then it's like, well, if we're your friends, you won't eat us. He's like, yeah. And that was it. Simple.
That's all it took.
It's easy peasy. The reason I like... It's funny, they made her like this like dead sleeper, like nothing will wake her up. And I didn't like, and then 2 or 3 times through the rest of the movie, they're doing it, like, wake up. And like before they do it, was all of that just to set up the King Shark thing?
I hope so.
Like, because they do it after that as well.
I hope so.
Where they're like,
just to affirm that
where they're driving to free Harley and he's like, wake up, and she's like, and like earlier with Waller and stuff. It's like, it was like this very... all that just to set that up, I think, which is funny. Like it does. Like you're wondering what other significance is that going to have?
I had no idea. I had no idea that James Gunn was going to be so good at what he does that I was going to end up watching this movie and going like, "Fuck, man, I need more Ratcatcher fucking 2." And and I'm mad that Polka Dot Man died.
Okay, so let's go to Polka Dot Man first.
Because I was really fucking feeling that shit.
Polka Dot Man. It's fantastic, and you're like, at first you're not understanding like how fucked up he is. You're sitting in the meeting, and they're like, we're all gonna die, and he's like, I hope so, and you're just not getting it. You see that he's bullied, and he just eats the shit.
I feel like 10 years ago that would have been Tony Shalhoub.
Like when Calendar Man like insults him, he just takes it. He's like, and you're like, I kind of see where this is going, but you don't realize how fucked up he is until that scene in the jungle where he goes, well, first he goes, I'm not a fan of killing. I don't know if it's the jungle or wherever it was, but he's like, I'm not a fan of killing, but all I do is picture my mom, and then it's easy. And I think it was Bloodsport goes TMI. But then later in the movie, it's almost like that's my secret. I'm always angry when he's like, that's like, I only everyone's my mom. And then they cut to the group, and the group is just
all his mom.
As the first time you see, I think that's the first time you see the actress playing his mom. And then it's like all these incarnations of his mom, like her with shark skin.
It's so good.
Dude, the frumpy body in the fucking Peacemaker outfit. I couldn't stop laughing. And then later in the movie, I think he sees his mom like 2 other times.
Well, the Bloodsport one where he's like, just picture your mom. And he sees the big giant Starro mom.
No, he's like, it's not. He does it. He's like, it's you. He's like convinced. It's like, it's your mom. And he goes and looks, and instead of Starro trash the building, it's like, a 1,000-foot mom swatting the building. Dude, I love that actor. I looked up that actress's name, Lynn Ash, Polka Dot Man's mom. That woman, for the next 10 years, is going to be doing conventions, taking pictures and signing autographs
and getting guarantees.
This fucking silly little movie, like she's, unless they do a prequel story with Polka Dot Man, or another sibling that she fucked up. This was the beginning and end of her career in a DC movie. But this woman is gonna be one of those low end people that you're like is going to cash in so hard on in the convention scene.
It's so true.
With this.
So true.
Like I saw the other day, just random. You know who's doing the convention circuit?
Who?
The girl that played Tony Stark's daughter.
Oh, fucking course.
She like literally does like things and says "I love you 3000" and like recorded things and blah blah blah. But she's doing conventions now, and taking pictures and doing autographs.
Hand over fist money,
which is weird because it's such a character. Like why is anyone paying for that? But I would pay. I would personally. I don't know why, but this woman pops me so hard in this movie that I would pay to go to a convention specifically to then pay more to get a photo with her and maybe an autograph. If they had a picture, this is the picture I want. That group scene with her as all the different characters of the Suicide Squad. I would ask her to sign each one with her name, every spot. like you would have a group photo with all the signatures on it.
That's great.
I would almost then try and get all the real actors to sign that photo. Dude, I don't know why, but she was like one of the minor stars. You know who else was a minor star in this movie?
Weasel.
No. A man. It was a man that only goes by one name.
Milton?
Uh-huh.
That Milton scene in the middle of the action.
I'm like observing. Like all of a sudden I'm like, this dude's still like he's doing things with them and they're not really acknowledging him. He takes the gun away from him before they go into the bunker.
He's literally just there.
But he's there like helping and he's holding bags and he's like, and I'm like 2 or 3 shots. I'm like, holy shit, this guy's still like running around with them. He's like the only freedom fighter with them. Like everyone else went to the other place. And I'm like, what the fuck is going on? And then they kill him and they do a whole gag with him. It was like, it was so funny that
they carried the gag to the end. She thought they were talking about Bloodsport.
Yeah, it was a gag. Yeah, it was a gag that seriously paid off because you're like, he's standing out in front of the club while they're like, the guy's a presence for a while in the movie, and they're not really talking to him,
and he's not really talking to anybody.
They acknowledge him once when they're like not letting him have the gun. It's just fantastic. Like that kind of stuff pays off for me. I love that kind of shit in a movie. As long as the big picture and the big story's working.
What other small characters are we missing?
Sebastian the Rat.
Sebastian the Rat is he is the hero of the story. Him and his rat friends.
Well, he saves
the day.
Well, he saves her from being eaten.
Mm-hmm.
He what else did he do specifically?
He's pretty much single-handedly responsible for the mission going right.
I mean, she controlled rats in general.
Nobody controls Sebastian the Rat.
Maybe, but he had a key moment where he saved her from being eaten, and I love the scene when they order the drinks and she's about to go away, and Cena calls her back and says, "No, we need a drink for the rat too." And like, this is where it's brilliant because in that scene he wins her over,
mm-hmm.
and she like punches him in the arm, and she's happy with him, and then by the end of the movie he's got to kill her.
Yep,
he's
thorough.
So you get that like that whole like kind of evolution of a relationship.
And by the way, the great thing and the great thing about Cena, and maybe it's just because you cast him and he's very good, but you can tell because Cena comes off as a man with how much conviction he has in what he does and in his word. So like at the very end, when she's like, "You don't have to do this," and he's like, "Yeah, I do," and you're like, "Oh, I believe that 100%.
Yeah. Well, I think everything, because he's crazy too,
mm-hmm.
but in his own way. It's kind of like, but you know, when in their own minds they think they're doing the right thing, it doesn't matter what he says. It doesn't matter the reason. It's to accomplish.
How about one of my other favorite parts of the movie, where they go to the encampment to rescue Rick Flag and to kill the entire resistance.
They don't. Well, they don't realize Waller. There's like the two side missions where they're going to do the thing. And they're like Waller's like Waller's like, no, you got to go get Flag. I don't know why.
Which is weird because you thought she knew he was gonna be dead.
Well, but now she knows. Here's the thing. Maybe she just felt like since he's alive, he's a competent mission leader, better than this guy she's trying to make into a leader
who has no interest in winning one.
Right. And Cena, he's got the second secret objective to make sure that the hard drive gets destroyed, but maybe she also doesn't trust him to be a leader of men either. So Flag it's like a happy accident.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, oh, he's still alive. Well,
yeah.
Well, this is
I'd much rather have him.
Right. I don't know. Again, you can read into things. This isn't as clear whether she thought they would kill everyone in the camp and then rescue him,
mm-hmm.
Or if that's another happy accident for her because she had no interest in like them. It wasn't an objective to overthrow the government or anything.
Yeah, no.
The mission here was entirely
get to the
to cover. It was a cover-up mission, and it's funny because she presses to these people. The mission is so important. It's like a vital interest and all this stuff, and so you're wondering what it is, and you think it is that these bad guys are developing Starro and et cetera, and once you find out the U.S. was involved with it the whole time, and this entire mission is a cover-up, it makes her so dirty immediately and so fucking evil that I think it also helps that mutiny when they want to go help the citizens of the fucking island, and Waller's about to blow their heads up if they don't turn around and abandon the fucking island. And I don't like. There's something there in terms of this whole cover-up thing.
You know what would have been cool is if the movie ended instead of like them killing Starro. Because really, when you think about it, what is Starro? Starro was just chilling. He got kidnapped. He's been experimented on for the better part of fucking 30 years. All he really wants is fucking freedom. He's pissed off at these people. He's gonna kill them all.
Maybe now he wants vengeance.
He wants vengeance.
He's like, this is my city a couple times.
I think it would have been really, and this is in like this is a Marvel thought process, and this is definitely a what if scenario, obviously because the movie's already come out. But wouldn't it have been really kind of cool if like they're at the end of the movie and they're all just kind of like they tried a bunch of shit, and Starro's still alive, and they're like, we got nothing left. And then out of nowhere, Superman comes down, does his thing, doesn't kill Starro because that's what he does. He'll take Starro to the fucking Fortress of Solitude, and we can call that back in a decade or so if we ever need to.
I just don't.
But I kind of want that moment where he's looking over at Bloodsport, and Bloodsport's like, "Oh shit," because remember, he kryptonite bullet. And he's like, "Hey man, hey, you did a good job. No hard feelings." And then flies off, and you get that rub.
Yeah.
And now, obviously, that wasn't never going to be.
No,
I just things I have in my head.
I feel like we got everything we needed out of Starro. There's no reason to ever use him again.
But now we did him so well, I want more.
Yeah, but that's... it's like you did... What are you going to have him do? Take over people and you have to fight him again? We just did that.
Well, no, but you didn't know. The only way to go from there is you go straight to he takes over the league.
Yeah, but but there's nothing new there.
Because now you know what Starro's capable of. So now he takes over the league, and you're like, but holy shit. But then again, they did make it a point where.
But you could make the league be evil in another way.
Well, actually, I just realized that can't work because in this iteration of Starro, once that face hugger gets you, it's over.
You're dead.
Yeah, so it wouldn't work.
But I'm just saying, like there's nothing different there.
Which makes him, by the way, scarier.
Yeah, yeah, they don't just fall off at people and they go back to their lives.
It makes him way scarier that way around.
Yeah, I feel like you got everything you needed out of Starro. There's no reason to go back to him. It's not a character with this big personality like a real villain. It's kind of So I don't know. There's no reason for it. You got everything you needed out of him. To go back to the well on that is pointless. Mm-hmm. If you like the idea of the Justice League being corrupted and someone having to battle them, you could tell that in another way with another character. There's plenty of
especially in DC, there's plenty of characters
plenty of
that you can do that.
You do with magic or whatever you want to do. But yeah, that's not important. So Cena. I mean, do you want to talk about all the Cena stuff? Because we're talking about them kind of infiltrating. And it's just him and Bloodsport in like a one-upmanship, killing these people as they get closer and closer to where Flag is. And they happen to all be like good guys, but they don't realize it at the time.
And they're so effective and efficient at killing. No one has an opportunity to say anything.
I mean, but you like they're one-upping each other to the point where Bloodsport shoots the fan to fall into the tub to electrocute him to death. When he could have just shot the guy in the back of the head. So they're definitely showing off to each other. And then there's that point. I forget the way Cena put it, but he's he shot the guy and then Bloodsport's yeah, you did. That was non-lethal. And he's like, oh no, it's a fucking blah, blah, blah
exploding
bullet. And then it explodes.
Shit.
And fucking Idris Elba's character, Bloodsport, goes, that's just showing off. And it's unnecessary. And Cena goes, yeah, but if it's cool, then it fucking works. And then Idris to himself goes, God damn it, he's right. It's not showing off if it's badass. He's like, God damn it, he's right.
It's so good, man.
The tidy whitey scene fucking cracks me up. Where he's he just sleeps in his fucking underwear. So if which is funny because you think no, we're in the jungle on a mission. If you were in Nam, let's say, you're not going to get undressed and get comfortable and put your pajamas on in the jungle to go to bed because at any moment you might need to be up and at it, fighting and shooting and whatever. And Cena's just in his underwear fucking...
It's everything about what they did with Peacemaker makes me understand why they're going forward with the Peacemaker miniseries because there's so much there you can do.
Yeah.
And look, I love
that. Was when my roommate, when we're watching, he's like, oh, well, I guess this fucking Peacemaker is a prequel. I go, if he's dead, they haven't, he just got shot and he went down. You haven't seen anything yet. And of course, I feel all vindicated when they fucking do the post-credit scene. And
I do enjoy the fact that James Gunn took a turn that no one else has ever done in the history of the character and had somebody just fucking finally lash out violently against Amanda Waller. It's like, no, whack.
You know, I mean,
it was
but
great.
they're all like scared.
Yeah.
Because they're all scared to death. I mean, if she's blowing people's heads up and threatening to put other people's kids in jail.
But then at the end, they call back and they're like, well, this is our punishment for knocking her unconscious. Yeah. We got to deal with this fucking psychopath lunatic. All right. So the only real person I don't think we've really touched on is Bloodsport and Idris Elba. And
I mean, and you know, we talked about Harley a little bit. But
yeah. I mean, listen, what's there? The only thing I think I can say is this is the best version of Harley that I think we've gotten.
Yeah, it's really well done.
And maybe that's just because she spent the last fucking 5 years doing nothing but Harley-related fucking media. But it really, really, really did hit home. Like I said, my only criticism is I just wish the moments where she goes real dark were more well presented, just to keep that idea that she's not this. She's just as psychotic as the rest of them, and not in the fun way sometimes.
Shit, that scene, the fight scene is kind of like her hallway scene, where she's walking through the cells, and she's like doing these creative ways of dealing with each person as she comes across them. That move where she's got like the part of her dress and she wraps the guy's hand up. He's got like a knife in his hand. She comes around him like she's going to choke him with the scarf or piece of fabric, whatever. But when she jerks it, it makes him cut his own throat. Was the coolest fucking move I've seen in a while.
It was.
In a fucking movie.
It was really cool stuff. I mean, I like that whole scene. I thoroughly enjoyed everything Harley Quinn in this movie. I had that very small personal criticism that just might be me. So it's like there's nothing there. I've fucking Margot Robbie, absolute home run, and Idris Elba, absolute home run. It makes me want to see more of him in movies.
He's great. There's the scene. See, because I feel like they did this, like one of the first scenes you see with him, one of the early scenes, when he still hasn't taken the gig, and he's meeting with his daughter.
And they're just screaming at each other.
Well, you understand why they did that.
Mm-hmm.
Do you?
Oh, do I?
Yeah. You understand why they did that? Like the fuck you scene in that where they're yelling at each other, screaming fuck, and he goes, fuck you. They even gets creative with the fuck yous and stuff. You know why they did that?
Go illuminate.
Because they wanted to differentiate him right away.
Oh, from Will Smith.
From being exactly Will Smith's character, but a different name.
Okay.
Where Will Smith loved his kids and was a family man and whatever. It's like, no, this guy didn't even want to know about a kid. Doesn't like let her rot in jail. She could learn a lesson. Blah blah blah. The fuck you scene was to be like, no, this isn't like, what was his name? Deadshot.
Yeah.
And Bloodshot. Like no. They're totally different characters. They're two black guys. They kind of feel similar if you wanted to like...
It feels like they recast Will Smith, but I assure you we didn't.
Right.
Kind of thing.
Right. No, this is a totally different character. You had to... like. It was very clever. Really early on established. This is not... We recast Will Smith. And you've got to like fucking suspend your disbelief kind of thing.
Yeah.
Or deal with after we make this movie. That's all anyone's talking about.
I treated this after watching this Suicide Squad movie. I'm treating it as
Suicide Squad and the Suicide Squad.
It's a version of a sequel, and they don't need. I mean, it just feels like a lot is familiar, but they turn their head.
Do you know
on
what
everything.
this is? This is Evil Dead 2.
Yes. Perfect analogy.
It's sort of a sequel, but also sort of a remake.
Yeah.
We take the things we like, throw everything else away.
Mm-hmm.
There you go. And by the end of the movie, they threw everything else away except Harley.
Mm-hmm.
You got rid of Flag Dies and Boomerang. So the only carryover from the original movie is Harley. I mean, character-wise, you also have Waller. But yeah, that It's Evil Dead 2.
That flag Peacemaker fight, that was some good shit.
Can I tell you, that is my favorite shot in the whole movie. That little segment of fight where the camera is kind of panning around the helmet and you see the fight in the reflection of the helmet.
That was really cool.
I wish it was a little longer, but I understand.
Mm-hmm.
That is my favorite shot in the movie. It's beautiful. You could tell what's going on in it, and it's just so like creative. But it doesn't stand out like a sore thumb like the rest of the movie isn't shot creatively.
Mm-hmm.
So it doesn't stand out as being odd, but yet it was like I loved it. I know that they couldn't cut back to it, so I wish that scene was a little longer, but I get that, like, there's only so much you can get out of it. That was cool. They're fighting in the fucking toilet, which is gross. And, like, out of nowhere, fucking stabs him in the heart and kills him. And you're like, holy shit.
Yeah, that was crazy. That
death is just as surprising as the Boomerang one.
I agree.
Just as out of the blue. Because again, that character's made it so far in this movie, you're just assuming
that you find a way, yeah,
that he's not dying. Because you're like, what are you, 85, 90% through this movie? You haven't done the Starro battle yet, but he's far enough along where
you've started the third act at least.
But it's interesting. They pepper deaths all along the way. Mm-hmm. Like even Polka Dot Man, you're like almost near the end. He's almost made it. You know what I mean?
I'm a superhero.
I'm a motherfucking
superhero.
Yeah. I mean, Idris, if we want to talk about it, they do that
scene with him doing the Superman landing, the superhero landing, all the way down.
That's cool.
That is fun.
I feel like we've seen something like that in another movie where someone's like kind of surfing something down. I feel like that's something we've seen.
I felt they were going to go with him breaking his legs. I thought James Gunn was going to be like, see the superhero landing? It's stupid. Instead, it's way cooler now.
Let me touch on to a couple of things. Here's where I feel like James Gunn, I'm starting to see you, James Gunn.
I see you.
I see you, and you can't do this again. Next time you've got to be a little more clever or different about it.
Oh, you mentioned this.
He's already going to the well on his own stuff, and maybe if I look at his older movies, I'll see it there too.
Absolutely.
But first of all, you've got like that father-daughter thing with Ratcatcher and him, which creates this emotional thing.
Again, shout out to Taika.
Which I think, no, with Idris.
Oh, with Ratcatcher
where they're like they find a motivation to they've both replaced the missing things in their lives.
Yeah, okay.
Or
you're right.
she's created, she reminds him of his daughter and he reminds her of her father, kind of like, I don't know, they have that father-daughter bond that starts to become a thing in the movie. I feel like that Gunn does that in his other movies. I feel like that's a recurring theme. We'll get to that in a little bit because they also do the big emotional fucking thing where you get Taika, you get the flashbacks of Taika and Ratcatcher. Ratcatcher 1 and Ratcatcher 2, where it's this emotional thing, and the problem with it is, okay, you get it. It's like when she's telling the story on the bus, and he's telling the story about his situation with his dad, and she's like, well, I wish. Then you get that bonding, but then when you go and at the end of the fucking movie, in the climax, you create that one emotional scene with Taika and her where they're sitting on top of a building and why the rats and because they're this and blah, blah, blah. It's exactly at the same point, the same emotional moment of Chris Pratt where it's take my hand, Peter, with Guardians 1. And I'm like, I see you fucking at the same exact spot at the climax against the big bad. We are having the same exact very emotional moment with a grown person and their fucking issue, their mommy daddy issue that's been like almost like haunting them and defining them through their life up to this moment, and now this moment, like whatever they overcome or whatever, or just remembering it in this climactic moment where they're triumphing over this thing. I saw it, and it was just fucking, to me, it was a little too obvious in its placement and its usage. And I'm like, I see you. Don't do it a third time.
Maybe he's not doing it on purpose, though. Maybe this is a call. This calls back to what we were talking about earlier, where it's like maybe you just need a second voice in the room, somebody that can just take a moment to read through and go, "Oh, you've done this before," because maybe he wrote that without even realizing that that's just what he goes to the well.
It feels like a tool that he just. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah,
it feels like a tool that you wouldn't.
But most people
wouldn't be oblivious.
But most people aren't going to pick up on that. You picked up on that because
I don't know. I think people that make movies are going to see that pretty.
But every movie everyone has their thing, you know, and
I get it. But if every movie, like if the next movie I'm like, oh, here comes the thing where Grandpa, he flashback Grandpa going, you know, if you just believe in yourself, you can do it. And then he gets stronger and beats the thing. You know what I mean? It's, again,
it's overused.
Well, it's not overused. I feel like
it's overused.
It's got to be a little more
subtle,
a little more cleverly disguised to not make me think, oh, this is Quill again with his mom.
Just do the same thing, but do it in a way where it feels refreshed and new. You know?
Yeah, it would seem. Okay, so the fight, like the Peacemaker. Okay, so we had the Peacemaker and Flag fight scene.
Ben's scratching out all his notes.
Well, yeah. I don't want to miss anything.
I like how you have a red pen, like you're an angry teacher.
It's the only pen I have.
Oh, Jesus Christ, Ben! I'll buy you some pens.
Well, I don't need a pen. I've got this one, so it's fine. I mean, I have other pens. I just don't know where they are. I've made some other notes of things I liked.
Okay.
John Cena dancing in the nightclub.
Oh my God! Oh fuck!
And then like that was another scene where you saw his mom when
that's right,
Polka Dot Man's dancing in the nightclub, and then it cuts to like his kind of vision of it, and you see him dancing with a bunch of his moms dressed up as all the people that were dancing around him. Fantastic.
I love that his power is such that it hurts him on a constant basis.
Oh, that's why he hates his mom.
Yeah,
she's created like this poison that constantly eats at him if he doesn't expel ridiculous polka dots twice a day.
And it's funny because they've made his power almost scary.
Well, are they explosive, or are they just like kind of like? Is it like shooting like razors or something?
That's what I
couldn't tell.
The way that the bodies fall, the way that they land, it makes it think like it just creates like a polka, like it just removes whatever it touches, like a space.
Like maybe it eats away. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like if it eats at him, maybe it would eat at whatever it touches.
Yeah.
So in that club, there's also I don't know if you noticed, Mantis was the lead.
I did.
Dancer.
I did.
So I was looking around in the club to see if I recognized anyone else. The only other person I recognized in the club in the background scenes was Lloyd Kaufman. And obviously he's going to throw his...
Lloyd's been in all of James Gunn's movies, though.
Well, yeah, because he owes everything to Lloyd Kaufman.
Tromeo and Juliet.
Well, his first job was working for Lloyd Kaufman at Troma Pictures. He wrote a few things for him, and I think he forever feels he owes him, and they're still great friends. So that's his personal Stan Lee that he throws in his movies.
And I really love that the Troma universe has this kind of impact on filmmaking now.
Well, it's one guy, but yes.
But how many people's James Gunn going to affect in their lifetimes and so on and so forth?
I don't know. I don't know what his coaching tree or learning tree is going to be, but it's an interesting thing. Mm-hmm. But I mean,
I just think it's cool because some people you talk about Toxie and they're like, oh, that shitty movie series from the 80s. Like, no, man, you never. That just shows you haven't.
Toxic Avenger in its time was a cultural thing. It had a cartoon. It had some other stuff. I mean, it was always schlocky stuff.
Mm-hmm. But that was the point.
I mean, yeah. Again, we've talked, like, I've been exposed to more Troma than I would prefer at times.
We've basically had access to a screen-used Toxie costume that we use for wrestling purposes.
Well, it wasn't screen used, but it was It was okay when I talked to Lloyd.
Oh, it wasn't screen use.
When I
okay.
talked to Lloyd, he's like, call these people and order it here because they're the ones that make the mask we use.
Oh,
So
okay.
when they make you one, it is exactly the same mask that we use. So when we did the cosplay wrestling and we had the Toxic Avenger, which was approved by Lloyd, and because he was appearing at the shows, he was his tag team partner and won the belts with Toxie. And Lloyd was a great dude. He even gave me one of the diplomas that like I was an honorary like
That's fucking cool.
graduate of the trauma.
That's really cool.
Whatever. Signed by Lloyd and all that stuff. That it's always cool to see him stuff because we have a first person interaction with him. Super cool dude. I think
He was very game
I think
to do
Jenny
stuff.
even said he had a big fucking piece. Like he was wearing tight pants. She said he had a big hog. And then no one's gonna be upset that I'm complimenting. Like Lloyd's not gonna be upset that I'm complimenting the size of his piece. But that was a Jenny thing. But yeah, it was cool it's always fun to see him pop up in James Gunn's movies. He was like, at first I'm like, oh, this is the only scene I'm gonna see him. It was when Cena first walked into the club, he kind of bumps Lloyd and kind of does a glance, and it's so quick, but you're like, oh, there's Lloyd. But then like in two other scenes in the movie, he's just dancing with like a woman, and he's like all snuggled up in her bosom and doing that close hug dance thing. Very funny. Yeah, so Lloyd was in that. I don't remember any other Easter eggs
I can't think of
that I noticed.
I remember Calendar Man.
they were probably in that group.
Yeah, there
another
was
person or two
there was
that looked familiar.
There
But,
was a few.
yeah, but the other thing that I don't know why it amused me so much, but when they were gonna go free Harley and she's sitting in the cab and she sees Bloodshot. Is it Bloodshot or Bloodsport? What am I thinking of?
I think it's Bloodsport, right?
I don't know. Whatever.
No, it might be Bloodshot. I think Bloodshot makes more sense.
Bloodshot, and I think, I don't remember what it is, but Elba's character and
Sneaking across the alleyway.
yeah, and he's wearing a wife beater, and all he has is his helmet and his gauntlets.
Yeah.
He just looks so ridiculous, and I think he's wearing like some kind of Tevas or something, some kind of like
that's right, the ankle shoes.
some kind of like sandal type
Yeah.
shoe, and he's gonna scale the building and that stuff. Oh my god, it was just like it's almost like seen in the Tidy Whities. It's just like this comic visual that like if you get it, you get it. Otherwise, it passes over your head. Yeah. Oh, the only other, I mean, I didn't recognize him, but when I saw the credits, the name stood out right away. John Ostrander, who's like one of the creators of the Suicide Squad comic, was the guy in the beginning that gave him the shot in the back of his head and then made some derogatory term like, like, I don't remember what he called him.
I
like,
read that as well.
puppet or cannon fodder or something like that. It's kind of like, like in Endgame, I think some of the creators that worked on Thanos stories in the early days were in that like support group.
Yeah.
With-
that's right. Yeah, that's
with Russo and Captain America, including Jim Starlin, who created the character. And maybe, I think he wrote and drew the book at the time, so he probably really created Thanos.
Or that time that Stan Lee gave Thor a haircut.
Yeah, but that's a Stanley's a standard thing. I'm saying
Yeah.
like, because when I watched at the end, I was looking through the credits and there's a special thanks section, and it was this long list of comic book creators, and I'm like, wow, this list almost looks like anyone that's ever worked on
Suicide
Squad or Task Force X comics.
Yeah.
To maybe in creating one of these characters, maybe not in like a journeyman artist that just drew issue this to that and didn't have any creation. He was just drawing, like he didn't create a new character visually or writing, but I think anyone that had any input either visually or in writing, like, was listed in this big chunk, which, I mean, I don't know if all those people got a taste or not, but probably not. But at least they got acknowledgement, which is cool. I think it's a shame they didn't have like Starro masks, like on sale on the shelves a week before this came out, like a really nice one.
Yeah, I don't know what the merchandising for this movie is. I really don't. I don't.
Probably action figures, and it's an R-rated movie. So I don't know how much they license out to like
that makes
to
it
be on like paper plates for kids' parties and stuff
I've
like
seen
that.
I've seen
or
like,
lunchboxes.
I've seen the expensive DC figures, like the $50-$60 version, but I'm like, kids don't want that shit.
There's
It's a collector's
these are
thing.
probably like McFarlane Toys action figures and stuff like that. You know, like the 20.
Oh my God!
I don't even know how much those cost anymore.
Could you imagine going to a fucking con and everyone's got a Starro fucking mask on? Oh, it'd be really cool.
That's funny. I mean, you could. It would be cool if you could if someone made one that was like kind of like silicone gel type, painted nice, but it was kind of like
someone will.
But it was like spongy, and it was like a point in the back of the head, and you had like the elastics, like a black strap from each star hand that went to a point in the back.
I assure
and you had that big glass eye in the front.
Give the cosplay community some time, Ben. It'll come
And you
out.
can't see shit out of it, but it's a really cool mask. Like there's no way to see through it.
Like I could think of so many different ways we would have used that concept in FSCW if we were running it. So many different ways you could go about that and have fun with it.
You could make your main character Starro be a guy where his whole head is like a starfish mask.
Yeah.
Not just over the face. And he's talking and he's like, you know, got a staff or it's just like a play on it. Mm-hmm. And then when he takes someone over, they have a fucking mask version. That
could be Cobra versus Starro.
Yeah, something like that. But you're both villains, so I don't know how that works.
Was I a villain though?
You were like
they love me so much.
You're a bad guy they cheered. Even when you were trying to burn the Constitution.
Don't remember a word I said. I just remember at the very end going like, wow, everybody's really down for this.
This is pro wrestling. When you were like trying to when you tore up the Constitution and tried to burn the American flag, they were cheering you until the good guy's music played and they realized, oh, we're cheering.
This isn't related to anything, by the way. But I've always felt this. How mad people got when I told them, oh, I'm going to burn the American flag in the middle of the ring. What? And I'm like, yeah, I'm going to do that. This could be part of the heat. Was someone going to stop you? I'm like, I told some people, I'm like, oh, I don't think so. Mm. Well, I did this at the con too, and they're like, what? I'm like, hey, you should probably come watch. It's going to be fucking fun.
Right.
Aren't you afraid for your safety? And I'm like, Cobra Commander, what the fuck am I worried about?
Yeah. Well, also, I'm a how tall are you? 6'3"? 6'3".
6'3".
Pro wrestler.
Yeah, at the time I was like 240.
I could handle about 20. I could handle 20 outrage convention goers at once.
It always got me how over the more ridiculous shit we did as Cobra Commander.
We've gone off on a tangent, but for sure our cosplay wrestling days we did two very crazy things. I think one was Cobra Commander trying to burn a American flag
on the 4th of July
in the ring on the 4th of July, and the other was on another 4th of July. We had Hitler, and
we've
Red Skull and all that stuff.
We talked about all that on our other podcasts.
Yeah. But I'm just saying those are our two.
But the only reason I draw it back to the Suicide Squad is we watch these cultural movies, and I'm just like, oh man, missed opportunities, man. But it's just fun little things because Star Wars is such a cool thing, and they did it so well. You're right. It's like it's been done. What are they going to do with that? And it just makes me go like, oh yeah, all right. Complete. Going back to the well. It wouldn't work. Yeah, but good on James Gunn to get that character out and to do it right like that, and make him as scary as.
He probably did a little bit of like DC research, and he's like, oh man. This is my dream.
Because 100% no one else,
Starro
100% no one else would have done Starro like that, and I'm glad we got what we got with that. I just wish that Starro was more centralized to in the story and not just like the MacGuffin that turned into the. It rubs me the wrong way where I kind of feel like you could have made this the whole movie, but it kind of was the whole movie.
But then. It's almost like the Suicide Squad is on a altruistic mission.
Yeah.
Instead of a cover-up, dirty, garbage mission.
So it all works out in the end.
Yeah.
So. I don't know, man. I don't got nothing else. Like I said, it's a really fun movie. My only criticism is I wish that the Task Force X And Amanda Waller was treated more like the 2016 iteration, where they really had their shit together and their decisions.
Yeah, but that's the comedy of this.
But it is the comedy,
and it
of
leads
all
to the
this.
deaths of several of the things. Which we'll talk- I think my two complaints are that I think it was mostly the music. I think he went a
little too far with it.
No, not too far, but I just don't think like he had set this precedent where like in the Guardians movies the soundtracks really
They're very much
really,
so part of the movie.
It's a new character, yeah. And in this they don't. It doesn't. Also, I think the reason this to me isn't as good as Guardians is because in Guardians, and this is just a casualty of what Suicide Squad is. But in Guardians, you create this strong feeling because you're building a family.
Oh, you obviously can't.
And you can't build a family if all your characters die. You can have a little bit.
He almost had it.
You're trying to have your Cat Stevens moment with Ratcatcher and Elba and
Ratcatcher and King Shark.
Yeah, but it's not the same.
The same. She was the emotional core of the movie. Yeah.
She's great. I think that actress is phenomenal, and she's going to be a huge star. I think she's another.
I thought it was Lisa Bonet at first.
No, you're crazy. But
I am.
But I think she's like, she was James Gunn's new version of Palm Clementov or whatever.
Yeah,
however you pronounce her name.
I can't
where like literally plucked from foreign industries where nobody here was ever familiar with them.
Only you can make foreign industry sound like porn industry.
Well, it might be. I bet there's a couple porn stars that could act, but where like now she's going to be a superstar more than Palm is. I think this girl was really, really phenomenal, and I think she's already probably getting a ton of offers. For a lot of stuff.
So I said it on.
But I think she only acted in Spain before this.
So I said it in Facebook, and I mean it. I know we're getting a Peacemaker series. Can we please get a Ratcatcher 2 King Shark miniseries? Oh my God!
I have a feeling James Gunn will revisit those characters in something, whether it's another. Obviously, they're going to throw the wheelbarrow of money at him to do another Suicide Squad. But if I assume that he's more than welcome to play in any sandbox he wants. He said before the Suicide Squad thing, when they were calling just to do business with him after he got fired at Marvel, I think they offered him Superman. I think that's what he said. And he was like, nah, that doesn't interest me or something like that. I think also because he did the Superman he wants with Brightburn.
Yeah, and I think about it, I don't think Superman, for James Gunn, Superman's not the right. You know what
that's
be?
That's a hell of a challenge.
Do you know what I think James Gunn would do a hell of a stab at? Is fucking Green Lantern.
I mean, again, it's kind of like an ensemble movie because it's the Green Lantern. You don't really tell the Green Lantern story without getting into all the other Green Lanterns out there.
But he's so good at taking all these characters and giving you the right amounts of each one, and making you care, and giving you a reason why they're there, making you care why they're there. And he could take that universe, and I really think he could do something well with it.
I think they have.
And by the way, his imagination is such where Green Lantern's powers, if nothing else, would at least be explored, and not whatever that.
I always disliked Green Lantern for that. I hated like giant fucking boxing gloves.
That's a giant fist. Like that's it. That's all you got, buddy.
And jousting, whatever. I always liked.
You have a creation ring that can do anything.
No, but I hated that. I always liked Jon Stewart's version where all he did were like basic walls and circles, and he was like there's no reason to be creative with it. It's like if I need to hit you, you're getting a power blast. If I need to contain you, you're getting put in a bubble. There's no reason to do like jousting knights and fucking a mule that kicks you. It was like I hated it. For some reason I just don't like that about Green Lantern. So I was always like,
actually,
yes, you
it's
can
funny
create any structure you want.
Jon Stewart Oh, actually, no, it's not. It's,
John Stewart's an a former
yeah.
architect and Marine.
Yeah.
It's like just simple shapes and strategy and combat.
The only
That's
one, the only one I ever hated was fucking Kyle Rayner. The best part about Kyle Rayner was when his girlfriend was folded up into a fucking refrigerator.
Which is which is a trope they call in movies now, fridging a female character to create a motivation for the hero.
That was literally the best part of that character. Because that was the first, and you were like, I remember reading that going, holy shit! Yeah. And then everyone did
Major Force chopped his girlfriend into a bunch of pieces and put her in the fridge. Fucked up for a Green Lantern story.
Pretty fucked up, man.
Pretty fucked up.
That time period.
It was 90s. Right?
That time period of Green Lantern, like when
No, that was 80s. Or was that 90s? That was like post-crisis.
It seems 90s to me.
It's like, it may be like early 90s or late. I don't know. Good question. I don't remember exactly, but
that early Jeff Jones stuff was great. The bringing Hal back and all that stuff. They went
overboard with all the colored rings.
No. That's it. Absolutely.
Again, he
absolutely fucking jumped the shark.
Sometimes creators have this great run until they don't realize they've stayed on it too long.
Like Scott Snyder's Batman run. Those first two fucking stories were great, and the
run's too long. Maybe Peter David's Hulk ran a little long, maybe not. But
I think so.
But Jeff Johns ran too long on Green Lantern, and it's like the creator becomes the hero becomes the villain.
It's 100%, 100%.
They foul up their own legacy a little bit once the well runs dry, and they stayed on the book a little too long.
There's very few times where you're like they were on.
I think just
enough.
Maybe the only one, like Peter David's long run on Hulk is kind of it's hard to like.
Because he did so much good.
It's a little bulletproof.
Because he did so much good.
It's bulletproof. And I think Claremont's original run on the X-Men is pretty bulletproof. John Byrne had some nice long runs on some books. But John Byrne, it really felt like a lot of times he knew when to get out. He's like Chris Jericho a little bit, where he knows when it's time to move on from something. I don't know where we're going. But I think we've gone on long enough.
Yeah, it's a fucking Suicide Squad was great. Go watch it.
It was it was fun.
9 turtle shells.
It didn't live up to my high expectations, but I think I created those unfairly in my head.
I think so, and it did its job. It was.
I wouldn't say it's his best movie.
No.
But it's really good.
It's real hard to beat that first Guardians movie, man. Yeah. It's real hard.
That he probably peaked with that, but we'll see.
Maybe. I don't want to say peaked because I really enjoyed this movie. I just felt like what we said earlier. You're right. He needed someone else in the room, and for no other reason than to go, hey man, this thing, good idea. Maybe we go about it a different way. Hey, this is a callback to something you've already done. Just someone to bounce stuff off.
I don't know. Maybe, but
what are we doing for next week?
I don't know. It's a good question.
I know what we can end with.
I should send you a fucking comic book to read and we should talk about comic books.
I know what we can end with. So you've infected my mother, and you don't even know you did it. I went over to the house.
I never touched the woman.
I went over to the house the other day, Ben.
Is she watching Friday Night Lights?
She's watching Friday Night Lights.
And is she raving about it?
Season 3. She's episode 3.
Is she Friday Night Lights shaming you?
She's not. She goes, it's a good show. I don't know if it's the greatest show, but it's a great show.
Well, in all fairness, there are a couple of things that do not appeal to her about the show that would appeal to you or me.
The actresses.
The stable of smoking hot women. Okay? Yeah. It's like, obviously that's going to be more geared towards you or I than your mother-in-law. And some of like the manly man stuff, like the football, like the Varsity Blues kind of football crazy
that we'll
stuff
get into that she would never. Yeah,
that we're like, oh.
I just know I walked in, looked over, saw it on pause, and my first thought was, damn it, man. Damn it. So I thought we can end it on that. I just thought.
Can I say that Adrian Palicki, I think that Padalecki, whatever her name is,
she can get it.
Tweeted that Friday Night Lights is back on Netflix, so you can go watch it there.
We almost got her as Wonder Woman. So close. We got a pilot no one will ever see.
We also almost got her in a spin-off show from S.H.I.E.L.D., which would have been interesting.
Oh, was she Mockingbird?
She was the character known as Mockingbird. She never used the name, and she never, but her I believe her name was whatever her name is, whatever the character's.
Oh, okay.
Civilian name is.
It was Mockingbird without being Mockingbird.
Yeah, I don't know if she had like codenamed Mockingbird ever in S.H.I.E.L.D. or something like that, but
okay.
But yeah, she was in theory that.
All right. Well, we got nothing else to talk about. We're just talking.
Also, she was in the first John Wick. But anyways,
all right, everybody, have a great week.
Yeah, I'm gonna piss my pants.
Bye.
Okay, bye. Okay, bye.